Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game SAINOME Colosseum R. This was sent to me by LionWing Publishing and is designed by Majin Mashiura. Whoever emerges victorious will be showered with incredible fame and riches and will be known by name throughout all the land. With the announcement of the tournament spreading across the land, every young warrior begins their preparation. Now the time has come and countless fighters from every region pour into the Colosseum. Some come for money, some for glory, and some to see if the rumor is true and win the right to marry the princess. Trained in different styles, armed with impressive weaponry and brandishing equipment forged by true masters, the contenders steel their nerves and wait for the first fight to begin. Finally, the greatest event in the kingdom's history will unfold, and a new legend will be born. Let me show you how to play. So the objective of the game is to reduce your opponent's health points to 0 through luck, meaning dice, and cunning tactics, or cards, thus earning the right to be called the winner. In any order, each player selects one character. We have here a gentle priestess. This is the normal form, and then they have their cool form or whatever. So let's say we pick the gentle priestess, and the other player picks animated armor. Then you shuffle all the SAINOME cards and deal 10 cards to each player. These cards are placed in a stack near the player's character card. Each card represents 1 HP, and a character is eliminated when they no longer have HP remaining. Whenever you take damage and lose HP, cards equal to the amount of damage are drawn from their HP stack into their hand. Then deal 5 SAINOME cards to each player to create a starting hand. You may choose to discard any number of these cards and redraw up to the amount discarded. You may only redraw once. All the other cards that aren't used are placed in a common deck in the middle of the play area. So on your turn, you have 2 distinct phases, the action phase, which is obligatory, and the discard phase, which is optional. During the action phase, players may choose to perform up to 2 actions from several options listed, in whatever order they wish. You cannot do the same action twice during a single turn. First off, you can draw cards. You can refill your hand by drawing SAINOME cards from the common deck equal to the amount of cards that will make you meet your hand limit. So your hand limit is 5 cards, so if I needed more cards, I could draw up to 5. Another action you can do is attach equipment. You can attach any number of SAINOME cards from your hand to your character that have attachment symbols matching those of your fighter. On each side of your character card are die icons called attachment symbols that indicate where equipment may be attached. So the cards that you attach have to have the matching symbols. For example, I could put this rune sword right here. As you can see, it lines up with that die icon. You can also replace equipment already attached, like maybe I had this rune sword here already, and I will replace it with a tidal wave magic card. I could do that as well. Any cards that you replace return back to your hand. Another action you can do is play an instant play card. That's the symbol right here. For example, this one says steal. Look at your opponent's hand and take any card, adding it into your hand. You can play 1 card from your hand with the instant play icon and complete the effect, and then it's placed in the discard pile once you use it. Another action you can do is attack an opponent. You declare who you're attacking and roll the die. Let's say I do that, and I rolled a 2. So that would be a miss. But if I did, let's say, roll a 4 with the longbow here, I could attack. I would roll the die. It's an odd result. If it was an even result, I would do an extra damage, but because I rolled an odd afterwards, this only does 1 damage to my opponent. So I would then, any cards you use during an attack are discarded after the attack is resolved. If I miss, the cards obviously stay. So if I did 1 damage, my opponent would then take 1 card into his hand as damage taken. If I ever roll a 6, I may attack using an equipment card from my hand, and then after resolving the attack, the used equipment card is discarded. And then finally, an action you can do is a character skill. For example, Villager A here, he has the recycle action, which says spend 1 of your actions to take 1 card from the discard pile and immediately attach it. So if you wanted to do that, you could. So let's go through an example of a turn. I could first, for my first action, draw cards and do that up to 5. And then let's say for my second action, I attack. So I take the die and I roll it. It's a 1, so that's a miss. Now for the discard phase, if I have more cards in my hand than my hand limit allows, I must discard all extra cards to meet my hand limit. And then if I have 5 or less cards, discarding is optional, and I may discard any number of cards from my hand. So I could be like, I don't want these 2 cards. and I could discard them. Now, whenever you lose HP, you take cards from your stack equal to the amount of damage done. So let's say my opponent attacks. This guy's got an interesting ability where his Iron Wall means all damage inflicted and damage taken during his attack actions becomes 1. So he can't attack for more than 1 damage, but he can't be hit for more than 1 damage. And let's say he rolled a successful hit, then I would have to take 1 damage of HP, but this card would go straight into my hand. Now, Gentle Princess has an ability when she's attacked with Doctrine of Disarmament. She can discard any amount of cards currently equipped and reduce the damage taken by 1 for each discarded card. So if I really didn't want to take the damage, I could discard this and completely negate the damage. Now, all the characters have an awakened form that they can awaken to. For example, Gentle Priestess, True Nature. When damage is taken, Gentle Priestess awakens. You then flip it to the other side, and now you can see it's Godslayer, and she has One-Shot Massacre, which triples the damage of any attached saw or chainsaw. Unholy Constraint, whenever you have 2 or more open equipment slots, your opponent may not use counterattack cards. And Feigned Innocence, you return the normal form at the end of your discard phase, meaning she will revert back to Gentle Priestess. So players repeat their action phases and discard phases until someone's HP reaches 0. Whichever player still has HP is declared the winner of the game. Alternatively, there are 5 rare SAINOME cards in the common deck that are considered legendary items. If you collect all 5 of these and use them, you win the game. It's like Exodia. Some SAINOME cards have icons that have counterattack effects. If an opponent attacks me, I can roll 2 dice and pick either result and treat that as my opponent's die roll. Or I have the Cursed Doll here. Give this card to your opponent, and this card may not be discarded during the discard phase. Basically, it takes up a slot in their hand. This symbol is the Catalyst symbol. It's a Catalyst card is a type of equipment card that requires you to discard a certain number of cards from your hand to be used during an attack. If you don't have the cards in your hand to discard, or choose not to discard them, then it's moved to the discard pile. So for Tidal Wave here, if I wanted to trigger it, I would have to discard 1 card to do the damage. Now, normally SAINOME cards must be discarded after being used, but cards with this symbol get to stay in a play even if after they're activated. Like Thunderbolt here does 2 damage, but if I trigger it, I can keep it in play equipped. And that's pretty much the game. I'll show you a couple more cards, but otherwise that's kind of all you do is you equip cards and roll dice and try to use them to attack your opponents. Now, we have different characters like the Gorgeous Gambler. When attacking, you may choose to re-roll your die once with Sleight of Hand. The Pure-Hearted Swordsman has a proficiency of equipped weapons deal 1 damage. And they all have, obviously, the Awakened Formed abilities as well. Broke Magus. When using magic-type equipment, you do not need to discard cards to meet the Catalyst requirement. And then we have some example of cards here, like a plain old dagger, does 1 damage. Here is a playing cards item. This card's damage N is equal to the amount of cards you've attached to your character. You don't need to discard this card upon activation. So it's just like an equipment card, however many cards you have equipped, that's how much damage it does. Reckless Assault is an instant card. You may only activate this when you have 1 HP. Discard your hand and roll a die for each discarded card, and deal 1 damage for every result of 4 and above. Tons of different cards in this deck. Obviously, I can't go through all of them, but there's tons of different items and skills and magic and equipment you can attach to your characters and use in battle. But that's pretty much the game. Just fight until all your opponents have no HP remaining. So aesthetically, the game is super charming. It's got that cutesy, chibi art that I think fits really well with how light and goofy this game is. As long as you approach the game knowing that it is a goofy game, it's light, it's full of random dice rolls, I think you'll be surprised that the game is actually pretty clever with its strategy sometimes. Obviously, it's all about finding the right cards that work with specific characters, but there's many different characters with so many different abilities, so it's like more engaging than you think it will be. Some of the cards are actually pretty tricky, and depending on your character, you can actually put together some fun little strategies with your equipment. It's got quick, snappy turns, which I appreciate. The dice rolling is definitely dumb, but it can be entertaining filling your slots with good options and also just kind of laughing hysterically when your opponent rolls a 1 for the 8th time in a row. There's enough light strategy here where the game is not a complete snooze fest, but the game also knows what it is. It's dice chucking light strategy fare. It's cute. You don't play this because, oh, it's a highly strategic game. You play it because it's fun using these little anime goons and traps to, you know, mess around with your friends and, you know, whittle them down to 0. It's not an amazing game, but I actually kind of enjoyed it a little. If you like the aesthetic is really nice, I think. I like the anime look a lot, and they did a really good job localizing it. It's cute and simple, and if that's the sort of thing that appeals to you, if you want something that's really easy to learn, because it's literally just put cards down and just roll dice and see if you blast each other, it's actually okay. There's more going on than you might think. There's just enough light strategy where I'm not bored out of my mind. It's alright. It's cute. It's kawaii.